And then the guys up front, it always starts with the guys up front, what they're capable of. Seeing a guy like Andrew Thomas in the weight room, doing squats and doing everything he was doing the other day, just being around him a little bit. Guys like GDR, just talking to different guys along the way. It's just been a really smooth process that's given me a lot of confidence. Obviously, this fan base, talking to Mr. Morrow himself and them and just the whole staff, it's been really special.
And maybe then, what did the Giants, explain to you about your role and what they're expecting from you here? And do you expect to be the starter? Or you have to compete for them?
Oh, I kind of wanted to hear that.
Sports history. I don't know if you remember that. Just the basketball player. Now screaming on Max.
I'm gonna give you this designer bag if you can prove to me that you know your finances.
Well, let's do it.
How many
The kids finding their passions, as my first Honda was to me.
To get your own helpful Honda from just $259 a month. Search your local Honda dealer today.
The quickest way from a billion points of data to a point of view. Satisfied.
Feeling Claritin Clear is like
Is she?
Letting her imagination run wild even though she has allergies?
Yeah.
What you want? Yeah, I got them all. Do it, you can't choose, you can have it all. Guess what? I got options. Give me, no stopping. Yeah, I got options.
New double tostadas. Now with Baja Shrimp. Only at El Pollo Loco.
Watch The Lead, next on CNN.
Oh my God! I just want to say that this was the best Dundies ever! Wow!
We have a strict policy not to overserve. Apparently, this young woman was sneaking drinks off other people's tables. I Xeroxed her driver's license, and she is not welcome at this restaurant chain ever again.
Those of us of a certain age all remember that scene, right? That was Pam getting kicked out of Chili's in the office. Well, now she might have a chance to go back. I'm sorry, what? 2 decades after that famous episode, Chili's is finally opening a location in Scranton. It opens next month, and it will look just like 2005, complete with old signs, chalkboard art, tiled tables, and bringing back famous menu items for a Scranton-only exclusive.
Awesome muffins are back.
Back? I said, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my Chili's baby back ribs.
There is no word on it and still banned after having one too many at Dunder Mifflin's annual award ceremony known as the Dundies. Right? That's what they say.
For businesses. I'm just saying. For businesses.
Thanks, guys. Thanks to all of you for being with us as well. The Lead with Phil Madden is start right now.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Phil Madden. In for Jake Tapper, we start with breaking news. We follow developments in several major stories around the White House. We are, just in short order, expecting President Trump to speak from the Oval Office. He's expected to announce new auto tariffs. We will bring you his remarks once they begin. Of course, this comes as the Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg is dropping the receipts. Goldberg publishing more screenshots from this now infamous group chat where top Trump administration officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, discuss imminent military strikes in Yemen. These new screenshots, they show Defense Secretary Hegseth discussing the details of the strikes in writing, including 12:15 Eastern F-18's launch, first strike package. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location and should be on time. Also, strike drones launched in Q9s. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today saying she would classify those messages as, quote, sensitive policy discussions, not war plans. As other members of the White House, including President Trump, continue repeating that the information shared was not classified. Now this would follow another major story. Just about an hour ago, the Federal Appeals Court ruling against President Trump, temporarily blocking him from using wartime powers to deport alleged members of the Venezuelan gang. as this case continues to play out in the lower courts. And that's where we began. Let's get right into it with my legal experts. Paul Reno, I want to start with you here. Walk us through this ruling. What exactly happened today?
So here they are maintaining this hold that was placed on Trump, wanting to use the sweeping wartime authority to deport people that are allegedly affiliated with a Venezuelan gang. Now, you may remember this dominated the headlines last week because there were also questions about whether the Trump administration abided by that lower court judge putting a hold temporarily on this policy while he assessed the larger constitutional questions here. The Trump administration, not surprisingly, they went up to the appeals court on Monday. Arguments were heard by a panel of 3 judges. And then today, in a 2-1 decision, these judges decided that they were going to keep this hold in place. And that's not terribly surprising, because one of the things that the Trump administration would have needed to show in order to get relief here is that they will ultimately succeed on the merits. They will likely try to appeal this to the Supreme Court. It would be surprising if they granted them emergency relief here. But there is a controversial issue here, a constitutional question. It will take time to work its way from the lower courts all the way to the Supreme Court. So this is not the final word on whether the president has the authority to do it. The question is, can he do it right now? And this appeals court maintaining the hold on this move.
You know, and one of the questions that we've heard raised, both I think in the courts but also outside as well, is the vetting process that these individuals that were deported actually went through on the front end. We've seen some brought back, at least according to court affidavits. There are still some that are there, even as this pause plays out. What are you hearing from your intelligence officials?
Well, that's part of what you see the concern is, and that's what comes out in the appeals court arguments, for instance, is the concern that some of these people may not be who the government say they are, right? Which is, again, to be declared enemies under this act. The government allegedly went through some vetting process, and we already know, according to some affidavits that you pointed out, that at least 8 women were returned because the Salvadorans determined that they didn't qualify to be held in that prison. Another person was returned, according to the court affidavit, because they're Nicaraguan citizens. Again, something that the Salvadorans apparently spent more time vetting than the American officials did. And so that's what is at issue here, is whether the intelligence work that was done by the Homeland Security people, whether that was done appropriately. And that goes to the central question, which is, how do these people petition, especially if they're sitting in a prison, in a harsh prison, necessarily by Salvadoran standards, to petition to determine whether or not they actually should be there or not.
And Elliot, that's kind of what I want to take to you. Elliot Hunter joining us. I want to start with the 2-1 that we saw here. One of those 2 was completely silent, if I recall correctly, from when this was actually heard. So we didn't have a really good idea. It wasn't along partisan lines. What was the Bush appointee? Patricia Mallet, who's appointed by President Obama here. What do you take from the actual kind of how this broke down?
Well, Phil, so 2 big takeaways from the ruling. First of all, one of the arguments that the Trump administration was making, and we've heard them say this publicly, is this court has no jurisdiction to even get involved in this case. They cannot decide, they cannot second guess anything the president does on these immigration matters. Well, all the judges here, all 3 of them, reject that premise. They say we can get involved here, we can have the power to make a judicial decision, and we will do that. That's number one. The second thing that I think is really important, and this was a split 2-1, the thing that ultimately the administration, the Trump administration, has to prove here, and that they allege, is that this was an invasion or a predatory incursion made by a foreign government. Now, I've said before on the air, all of those terms sound like real stretches as applied here, and there's a whole section of the opinion where the court sort of dissects those meticulously, and the 2 judges in the majority conclude essentially that. This is a temporary ruling, but they say, based on what we have in front of us, that is a real stretch to apply those terms, and we don't think those terms are ultimately going to apply to this situation here.
Bill, the question, and Paul got this a little bit, but just kind of looking forward here, what is the Trump administration's next move? How do they play going forward?
Well, it's a little complicated because this particular act has not been invoked in many, many years, but it has been invoked now, and it's been acted upon, and I think the administration is making a kind of a case of first impression here that if the countries from which these alleged criminals came sent them out knowing that they were individuals with violent tendencies and an agenda, that it falls under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. So it'll really be something for the Supreme Court to decide.
Paula, to that point, I think there's you live in this world. We expect a lot of things to end up at the Supreme Court if they haven't already. What is the pathway here? What's the administration thinking? You're so in the weeds on their legal strategy. How are they going to approach this?
They've always approached this as a long game. I've been saying this since Trump was elected in November. They knew every one of his executive actions, every one of his attempts here to use a very expansive definition of executive power would be challenged in court, and they knew they would lose at the local level because often these challenges are filed in districts that are more friendly to the challengers, but they believe if they can get the constitutional question. Right now they're asking for emergency relief. We want to do this, we want to do it now. But there's a larger constitutional question, and they feel confident that once they get that larger constitutional question before the conservative supermajority at the Supreme Court, that they will prevail on many of these issues. Not all of them. I think it's an open question even within the administration on birthright citizenship, maybe this one as well. They have always viewed this as a long game, but they have a very impatient boss. So they're always trying to push us along as quickly as they can. But again, they have not yet ruled on the larger constitutional issue, the use of this particular act of war power, how the process played out. Those questions are going to take time. And they could ultimately reach the Supreme Court. But that's how they've always seen this, as a long game. They don't get too flustered when they lose at the lower court. Now their boss, the president, he's never happy when he loses. Everybody's got a boss. But they believe that their chances in the long term are good. We'll see if that pans out.
And to that point, when we talk to folks over the Justice Department, look, they are overwhelmed, I think, at this point, just given the sheer scale of what the civil division is dealing with right now, what the lawyers and the team is doing. But this idea of executive authority, of which there's clearly an expansive view inside the White House, and presumably with the people that they've appointed over at DOJ as well. How much say are they getting into these moves that we've seen? They're not getting a lot of say. Look, a lot of this is coming from the top. It's coming from the White House. It's coming from Stephen Miller. It's coming from a decision to pick fights like this one. For instance, they could have deported all of these people without using this law. They could have really just gotten people on these planes. Venezuela is accepting deportees. They could be doing a lot of this without the extra sort of show that they're putting on, right? But they really want this fight. They want this fight over this law. They want the fight over birthright citizenship. And it's for, additional reasons, right? Which is, this is what the president ran on. And they want this big confrontation with the judiciary and everything. So, again, they could be using passenger planes to deport people for a lot less money than they're using military planes to do the same thing. But again, part of this is a production. We're living in season 2 of Trump, right? And that's what this is.
And I think, Ellie, just to close with you, one of the difficult parts about the production is we don't necessarily have a lot of visibility into what's going on here on a day-to-day basis. We see it sometimes with court declarations. We see it sometimes with DOJ attorneys to the extent they're willing. How much more will we learn about how this is all working, what the legal theories are, how they're actually the process that's in place as this continues to play out?
So it's a really important point, Phil, because we've all gotten very used to the criminal process where so much of it is transparent, so much of it is set forth in court, in indictments, in evidence, in trials. We have well-established burdens of proof that prosecutors have to reach, but we have to sort of shift that whole perspective over to a different ballpark here, which is the immigration area of law, where there's so much less transparency. And the main way we're going to learn about what's happening behind closed doors, frankly, is through these lawsuits and through decisions like the one we just saw. There are several lawsuits challenging this and other immigration and deportation moves. Much of that ordinarily happens behind closed doors. And important to keep in mind, the people who are subject to deportation, they get some due process rights, but they don't get the full due process rights that are due to a criminal defendant. And what courts are trying to do is find that right spot in between those two extremes.
Yeah, it's a really important point. Though, final thoughts here as we kind of gather what we've seen both over the course of the last couple hours, but really the first 2.5 months of this administration.
Well, I think as Ellie points out, and as the other commentators have mentioned, this is really a bit of a Hail Mary pass, but when you look at it from the perspective of the administration, they probably expected to have some setbacks in the district and the circuit court, but when you think about it, a 2-to-1 decision in the circuit court isn't a bad scale of numbers for them. They're they're getting accomplished what they ran on, and I think the Supreme Court will ultimately have to address this. And I think they're approaching this from a novel and unique standpoint, invoking this 1798 Act, and if it does work, it'll open the floodgates to really accomplishing what the president promised when he ran, and that's supporting people who have a known tendency for violence. So I don't think it's been unexpected on the administration's part, and it's a 9-inning game. So we'll see what happens when the Supreme Court takes it up.
Both telegraphed, but also novel and unique. I like your word choice there, Bill. Really appreciate you guys. It's a really great conversation. Certainly have much more to continue to cover this. Well, in the wake of this ruling, we're standing by with the president at the White House. He's set to make an announcement on auto tariffs. How much will he actually say about that? Or will he address the other big story that's been dominating Washington, the group chat controversy after his top administration officials involved today, again, denied classified details were discussed. Keep it here. We'll follow it all.
It seemed like he could do no wrong.
I have never known. No way. Why the myth of Lance Armstrong endured for so long?
United States of Scandal with Jake Tapper, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
TurboTax Free Edition, 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/video. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition.
Navage, allergy relief that works.
So when you're dealing with allergies and you've got that stopped up feeling and you blow your nose and it's a little bit better, using the Navage takes it all away. Put the water in the top chamber, put the pot in, close the lid, put it in your nose, push the button, you're done. I love Navage. It's natural, it's effective, it's fast. Probably the best investment you could make if you suffer with allergies.
Pick up Navage, the #1 doctor-recommended brand.
Still searching for the one? Olay Super Cream with SPF. The power of 5 in one super cream. To hydrate, smooth, brighten, firm, and protect. It just drinks it in. To boost cells for more resilient skin. It's Super Cream. Only Olay.
Want the fastest working GLP-1 for half the price? Roe now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with a formula from Eli Lilly. See if you qualify at roe.co/TV.
Taffy is a traveling dog. She just loves to go. Her hip pain showed up when we would go on walks.
She was diagnosed with osteoarthritis pain.
Our veterinarian recommended that we try Librela.
Veterinary professionals administering Librela who are pregnant, trying to conceive, or breastfeeding should take extreme care to avoid self-injection, which can cause allergic reactions and anaphylaxis.
She's got energy to do things that she wasn't doing before, and that's just amazing.
Hooray, hooray! Lumi launched a spray. I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN that created Lumi. And this spray will once again change the deodorant game. Unlike other spray deodorants made with mostly alcohol, Lumi's water-based. Empowered by mandelic acid, it's so gentle that during clinical testing, not one woman experienced burning or irritation on pits, feet, or privates. Plus, it's quick drying. Way to go, Lumi! Clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours. Spray it up, down, all around. With the truly touchless way to Lumi. For the best deals, go to LumiDeo.com.
You want guard tonight? Oh, nah. They just got Simply Safe. It protects the whole home, inside and out.
Stop. This is Simply Safe.
Whoa! That was impressive. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
We were made for Huli. Made to bring her joy. Because when a scary tumor threatened her story, we became her magic. Every nut and bolt became special. Each hand and tool dedicated to one quest, erasing that tumor and keeping her story alive, because we were made for Huli.
Here you go.
Is there any way to get a better price on this?
Have you checked Single Care? Whenever my customers ask how to get a better price on their meds, I tell them about Single Care. It's a free app accepted at pharmacies nationwide.
Before I pick up my prescription, I always check the Single Care price.
It's quick, easy, and totally free to use.
Single Care can literally beat my insurance copay.
You just search for your prescription and show your Single Care coupon at the pharmacy.
So I just show the coupon and get this price?
That's right. Go to singlecare.com and start saving today.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
If you or a loved one have mesothelioma, we'll send you a free book to answer questions you may have. Call now and we'll come to you.
800-821-4000.
The breaking news, we are standing by to hear from President Trump at the White House. The White House press corps has just walked into the Oval Office. Trump is expected to announce new auto tariffs, but of course it comes as his White House continues to grapple with the fallout of the Signal group chat. Top administration officials, even President Trump, continuing to insist that no classified information was shared.
Nobody's texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about it.
The conversation was candid and sensitive, but as the President National Security Advisor stated, no classified information was shared.
I used an appropriate channel to communicate sensitive information. It was permissible to do so. I didn't transfer any classified information.
There was no classified information transmitted. There were no war plans discussed.
There was no classified information, as I understand it.
Let's go straight to CNN's Caitlin Collins at the White House. Caitlin, you were in the briefing today. Obviously, administration officials continuing to be aggressive in their pushback. What was your takeaway from what you saw?
Yeah, Phil, they've been bracing for these texts to come out from Jeffrey Goldberg, releasing all of the messages that he did not initially publish after they were arguing that it didn't contain any classified information. And that's an assertion that they're standing by even after the president was personally briefed on these messages. Caroline Leavitt confirmed to us during that briefing that, yes, Trump had seen these new messages that were published by Jeffrey Goldberg of what was said by his top national security aides inside that group text, and that he still believes that there was no classified information contained in them. We read some of the messages aloud during the briefing. This is what Caroline Leavitt had to say. I want to have a follow-up on something you just said, but since we have these messages released, and you said that the president has now personally reviewed them, in the chat, at one point, Pete Hegseth wrote, 14-15, strike drones on target, and in all caps, he said, this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Does the president feel that he was misled by his national security advisors, whoever it was that told him there was no classified information in there, now that he's seen these messages? I've now been asked and answered this question 3 times by both of you, and I've given you my answer. The president feels the same today as he did yesterday. Okay, so now I might follow up on what you had just said. Go ahead, Philip. I'm not taking your follow-up. I have a follow-up on something you just said, though, Caroline. That's Caitlin regarding not taking your follow-up. Philip, go ahead. I'm calling.
Thank you.
Now, the follow-up question was regarding Jeffrey Goldberg, because part of their defense here, Phil, has been to not only say that none of this information that was included in that group chat but was sent by the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, including the times of these strikes, when those bombs were going to be falling, as the message that I had read there, from what he had said to the other officials inside that group chat. They've also been attacking Jeffrey Goldberg, who is the reporter here, who was inadvertently added to that message. They have maintained and continued to criticize him throughout this, even though, of course, it was the National Security Advisor who clearly had his contact information and added him to this group message. Something that later, when we heard from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who confirmed that, yes, he was also inside that group chat, he said he believed it was a big mistake that Goldberg was added to that message. And so what we'll be watching for here as the president is inside the Oval Office with reporters right now talking about tariffs is whether his tone or his view of this changes differently. Because yes, he has publicly been very defensive of his national security team. Caroline Leavitt said earlier to us that he has great trust in them. That is something that everyone is obviously watching very closely now that these messages are out there. And even Republicans have said they do believe this was sensitive information. And some of them have argued they believe it's information that was so critical it should have been classified.
Yeah, we've seen often, and you know better than anybody, the president has full unequivocal support until he doesn't. But at least at this moment, it has been very clear still supports his team. Caitlin Collins, great work as always in the briefing room. Thanks so much. And of course, you can look out for Caitlin in just a few hours on The Source. It's weeknights at 9 Eastern here on CNN. I want to bring in my panel now. And Sabrina, I want to start with you, former Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary. One of the oddities of the day, at least for me, somebody who hasn't worked in this space like you guys have, the war plan versus attack plan semantic debate that's been going on. The administration saying, just about everybody, they changed how they framed what the text messages said, and therefore we got them and they were misleading. Explain to people what the distinction is between war plan and attack plan here.
I honestly think it's just a game of semantics here, and they're trying to drive a wedge, but the reality is
is that what Pete Hegseth put in that chat with the timeline, with the fact that their F-18, the different aircrafts, the MP-9s were going to be up in a matter of minutes. That's an operational military plan. So no matter how you characterize it, whether it's a war plan, an operation plan, a military plan, they all mean the same. It was an operation. And the fact that he put the sequencing, the TikTok and the timeline in a group thread, instead of keeping that on a classified side, I mean, he physically had to type that in to put that into a signal thread, which is something that is probably on what we would call the high side, on a secret or above classified side. And so I think even though we're parsing words here, what Secretary Hegseth did was clearly deserves some more scrutiny.
Go ahead.
I mean, listen, imagine it's January 5th, 1944. June 5th, 1944, and you say Normandy, June 6th, landing craft and paratroopers, right? I mean, that's effectively the quality of this information here. It is specific times, 12:15, 13:45, 14:10, including the exact time when the bombs are going to start dropping, the weapon systems, F-18s, Tomahawks, the country you're attacking, and right down to the specificity of at least one human target involved here, and the intelligence collection that followed, or actually that preceded the strike, saying we saw him walk into that building where his girlfriend lives. I believe that was the context. That is all of the elements of the most sensitive intelligence you have, which is timing, target, weapons involved, and intelligence collection, and perhaps how successful that intelligence collection was. I spoke to a senior U.S. military official currently serving in the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth, who said, quote, "I don't see any way this is not classified." I spoke to a former senior U.S. military commander who said the following: "Until the strike goes, it's absolutely classified, as the lives of our pilots depend on secrecy." This official went on to provide more detail to say, if your adversary here knows this information in advance, timing and target, they can do a number of things. They could leave those sites, and you don't even have to know the exact site, just know that they're coming for you. Leave command and control centers, move communications facilities, but also crucially, mass more anti-aircraft and anti-missile firing positions and resources so that you could conceivably target and overwhelm the U.S. pilots. That's the most sensitive thing. And Sabrina knows this because she works in the Pentagon. Anytime I've done a story, or say have been embedded, where I know because I have to be at X place prior to an operation, where I know time or location, it's been made very clear to me that is the most sensitive intelligence, and therefore you cannot report it, and we're going to keep this close hold prior.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, exactly just to add on to what Jim said, when I was at the Pentagon, we never even confirmed an operation had happened until our fighter pilots were safe, until they were out of the range that they could be hit by anything. And so the fact that, Hegseth put this into a group chat while we had fighter pilots in the air, that put them at risk. That put the men and women who wear a uniform at risk. And so to the guy who's always saying, he's going to restore the warrior ethos, which is all about the mission. I mean, he literally put the mission at risk. And so I think we're, going to see more, and I hope that, Congress really does investigate this issue so it never happens again.
Yeah, some bipartisan kind of green shoots of that. We'll see how that plays out. And John Thune said it best, a Republican. Made a mistake, acknowledge it, fix it, don't let it happen again. It seems like a pretty simple solution, one the White House has not actually pursued up to this point. We'll see what we hear from the president as we continue to wait for his remarks from the Oval Office. Jim Sciutto, Sabrina Singh, thank you guys very much. Well, the top Democrat on the House administration, we're on that group chat. He joined next with what he got out of the hearing and a good question Jim Hines still has for those members.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert, doing everything while you do your thing. Now this is Taxes, Intuit TurboTax.
It's in our very nature to seek the excitement of the unexpected, an endless yearning to experience what lies beyond the everyday.
Tax Day just became Max Day at Yamaha Resort and Casino at San Manuel. 500 winners will share $1 million on April 15th. Be a part of the most cash payouts in history. Only at Yamaha, voted #1 casino in the country. Details at Yamaha.com. Must be 21 to enter. Please gamble responsibly.
Attention super markup shoppers, just a heads up. These loyalty cards with exchange
personality thing.
Yes.
I got news for you. News Saturday on CNN.
Oh, I wish my TV provider would choose what I paid for.
Sling lets you do that, Buck Boy.
Choose and customize your channel lineup or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that.
Chrome user, huh?
I thought it was browsing incognito. Google leaves your personal information exposed.
Switch to the DuckDuckGo browser. The built-in search engine never collects your search history, and it blocks those cookies and ads.
And it's always free to use. That was easy.
Download DuckDuckGo today.
Renewal by Anderson presents Signature Service.
One of the things that really sold us on Renewal by Anderson was that we would be working directly with one company from start to finish.
We replaced our windows just a couple years ago. And come to think of it, there were a few red flags when Chuck and his crew showed up. He seemed like a nice enough guy, but then he kept rescheduling. And then they measured wrong and the windows didn't fit. It was really frustrating.
Windows come in all shapes and sizes. Our team is just getting going on our install. This is Charlie, one of our certified master installers. We like to think that our high-quality, custom-built acclaimed windows, combined with our exclusive signature service, is the reason we've replaced more than 10 million windows nationwide.
No way. 10 million windows?
And we love what we do. And we appreciate homeowners like you, Sam. Who trust your home to our team.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe how good these look. I'm thrilled. Kudos to your team, Don. They've been terrific. Start to finish, this project has been so easy, and everyone that I worked with has been so accommodating and respectful of my home.
That's so good to hear, Sam. You know, it's all part of our exclusive signature service. We work together as a team, so we can provide you a seamless experience. From our design consultants to install managers and our certified master installers. Every day we get feedback from our homeowners, and the most common thing we hear is excellent customer service. You know, from start to finish, we want your window replacement project to be the best home improvement project you've ever had.
It's Renewal by Anderson's 31-day sales event. Save $379 on every window and save $779 on every patio door and entry door with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months. Call before our 31-day sales event ends March 31st. 1-800-501-1400.
Consumer Cellular is lowering the price for those 50 and up. Get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. That's just $60 a month. So switch to the carrier ranked #1 in network coverage satisfaction. Visit consumercellular.com today.
We're back in our politics leads. The fallout continues from the Signal group chat with the Trump administration. Today, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe faced grilling from the House Intelligence Committee. Joining me now is the top Democrat on that committee. One of the we questioned them today, Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He is the ranking member of the Permanent Subcommittee on Intelligence. Congressman, one of the things I believe you were trying to get at today when I watched the testimony is, were there discrepancies with what we heard yesterday before some of these messages, or the full kind of record of the messages came out, versus in the wake of them? Do you feel like members of the Senate were misled by either John Ratcliffe or Tulsi Gabbard in their testimony yesterday?
You know, in their testimony yesterday, both of those two said that they didn't recall any discussion on that Signal thread of weapons or targets or timing. And lo and behold, this morning when Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlanta releases the actual text string, we see incredible specificity, military time, F-18s launching at this point, weather, good, go, MQ-9 Reapers. Now, that is a degree of specificity that could have gotten our sailors and airmen hurt. And there's a reason why we don't ever publicize that kind of stuff before we put men and women in harm's way. So remember, their answer was, I don't think so, I don't recall. Now, you know, people can judge for themselves how much you should recall those sorts of details over a mere 2-week period. So if I were a senator, yes, I would have some questions about the straightforwardness of the answers that they got yesterday.
When you talk about the specificity in the messages themselves, I want to play what we heard from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth earlier today. Take a listen.
There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
What's your response to that, which is not just a HECSEF position? We've heard from several administration officials.
Yeah, of course. Look, there are any number of absolutely bizarre defenses for this outrageous behavior. You just heard one of them, which is, oh gosh, it wasn't that specific. Well, it was specific enough that if the Houthis had known that the attack was coming, that there were F-18s involved, that's a very specific airplane, that MQ-9s were involved, they've shot those down before, they could have moved their assets in such a way to take down one of our pilots. So they're getting all wrapped up in the actual about exactly how specific these plans were. And oh, by the way, was it classified? But you know what? I don't know if it was classified or not. It absolutely should have been classified. Oh, is it a violation of the public record? Folks, you made a catastrophic mistake that could have killed American service people. So what I didn't hear Pete Hegseth say, which frankly is what needs to be said by all of these folks, especially Pete Hegseth, is, oh my God, I made a terrible mistake. I am sorry, and we're going to do a study and an investigation to determine what went wrong. It's never going to happen again, and there will be accountability. All of those things which they would demand of every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine that works for them, they would demand that right off the bat. They haven't yet gotten to any of that. And until they start dealing with this like adults, because it was a very serious mistake, this issue is not going away.
Do you think they will reach that point? And the reason I ask is there's a number of your Republican colleagues who don't often break with the White House on really anything. And while it's somewhat muted, they have made very clear. The national security Republicans are saying, look, this was a problem. It would be great if they could just acknowledge the mess up and move on, which is more than we usually hear from Republicans with this administration. When you talk to them, what are they telling you behind the scenes about efforts to try and get answers or try and have accountability?
Well, again, it's an absolutely bizarre thing. I mean, we can get caught up in the esoteric of what's classified or what's not. But anybody who has raised a toddler, forget about the Secretary of Defense, knows that when the toddler makes a mistake, the toddler says sorry and learns not to do it again. That's both what we do in this country, and it sure as hell is what we do inside the military. And oh, by the way, you know how this issue goes away? If the Secretary of Defense and Mike Waltz stop attacking Jeffrey Goldberg, who did not ask to get onto that signal text, they stop attacking Jeffrey Goldberg, and they start doing what we would demand of 5-year-olds, which is to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, it's not going to happen again, there will be accountability. When they start saying those things, we'll move on to talking about other things.
Yeah, we'll see if the president makes any steps in that direction. I'd be highly suspect of that happening, but we will certainly be watching the Oval Office as he speaks right now. Congressman Jim Himes, always appreciate your time, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just moments ago, President Trump, big announcement on auto tariffs. He's made a 25% tariff on cars not made in America. His comments just in. That's next.
It seemed like he could do no wrong.
I have never known. No way. Why the myth of Lance Armstrong endured for so long?
United States of Scandal with Jake Tapper, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Happy birthday, one of a kind. Snack loving, always elegant. Dog mom to Alfie. With gifts from Etsy.
Gifts and say I get you. Etsy.
TurboTax Free Edition. 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/video. I can file for free.
Now this is Taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition.
Alright, so that's one pair of prescription glasses.
Yep.
Plus anti-reflective lens coating.
Oh.
Scratch-resistant coating.
Did I choose?
UV protection.
And that's included in the...
$95.
Oh.
Welcome to Warby Parker.
Found a sweet dentist on ZocDoc. Dr. Staff is a real beauty, and people say he's fascinated about dentistry. Dr. Sales on 33rd Street? He can practically skate there. Booked it. Sweet.
You've got options. Book now.
You founded your kayak company because you love the ocean, not spreadsheets. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Ever feel like a spectator in your own life with chronic migraine? 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. In a survey, 91% of users wish they'd started sooner. So why wait? Talk to your doctor.
Botox effects may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as trouble swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Those with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions like rash, breathing problems, dizziness, neck and injection site pain, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions like ALS, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medicines like botulinum toxins, which may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Chronic migraine may still keep you from being there. Ask your doctor about Botox today. Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
At Drive Time, you can get approved on your phone, shop for cars on your phone, and
Make the deal I want on the car I want.
And the deal you make on your phone is a deal you pay at the real Drive Time dealership.
I'm gonna go buy that car.
Get in there. This is a commercial. Go get your real deal at drivetime.com.
It's your phone.
With Verizon, trade in any phone in any condition. Pull flight info from notes, send to mom, and get the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus with AI and a watch and tab, all on us. That's up to $1,900 in value. Only on Verizon.
Get 2 jumbo shrimp tacos for just $6. For limited time only at Del Taco.
No matter what happens, don't stop running until you get to the car.
Mountains of flavor, those crispy peaks, 12 flavors so bold, your whole life is complete. Dipped in the lake, man, that ranch is deep. New crispy tenders, bring the flavor, Wingstop.
Embrace al fresco living and transform your backyard into a seamless extension of your home with collections from Living Spaces. Your outdoor retreat is ready to enjoy right away with free shipping as soon as next day. Discover elevated outdoor collections only at Living Spaces.
Living Spaces.
Welcome back.
Have I got news for you? News Saturday on CNN.
We have been monitoring President Trump in the Oval Office, technically an announcement of 25% tariffs on autos. He has also now weighed in on the issue that has been bogging down his administration for the better part of the last several days, Signalgate. This is what he said.
The investigation to find out what went wrong.
Who's responsible?
Mike Waltz says that he's responsible.
Well, yeah, Mike Waltz, I guess he said he claimed responsibility, I would imagine. It had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I always thought it was Mike. But again, the attacks were unbelievably successful, and that's ultimately what you should be talking about, I think. So Mike he took responsibility for it. Say it?
Should Secretary Hegseth consider his position over the signal?
Hegseth is doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this. Hegseth. How do you bring Hegseth into it? He had nothing to do with it. Look, it's all a witch hunt.
We are continuing to monitor the president as he takes questions from reporters in the Oval Office related to that tariff announcement and obviously a lot else that's going on with this administration. It is worth noting several officials over the course of their public testimony seem to put most of this at the feet of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. The president very, very explicitly backing Hegseth, making clear he didn't believe he had any role in this whatsoever, although he was the one who was putting the information, the specific details about the ongoing operation or soon to be starting operation in the text chain itself, saying Waltz had taken responsibility for it. He was the one that everybody was looking at. Also said, I guess, several times. So it seems like not trying to take full ownership of what's been happening over the course of the last 48 to 72 hours. We will keep an eye on those comments, but we do want to talk about your money. The money lead. Just moments ago, the president announced new tariffs on all cars not made in the United States. CNN's Matt Egan is following what was an unexpected announcement. Matt, we've been told that kind of the sector-by-sector tariffs might be pushed off a little bit beyond April 2nd, just a couple of days ago. Now this is happening, announced today. What do these tariffs look like?
Yeah, Phil, this looks like a major escalation in the president's trade war, and it is one that could significantly impact consumers. So just a few moments ago, President Trump announced this 25% tariff on all cars not made in the United States. He says that these tariffs kick in on April 2nd, and the United States will start collecting on April 3rd. What's not entirely clear at this point is whether or not these tariffs apply to auto parts or just to finished vehicles. That is a crucial detail. We're still going through the details and waiting for the actual executive order that will spell all of this out. But the goal from the president here is to try to get auto companies to make more cars in America. Of course, it would take years to build factories in the United States. Take a listen to the president's announcement just a few moments ago.
This is the beginning of Liberation Day in America. This is very modest. What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We start off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%.
Now, analysts have warned that tariffs on cars and car parts will increase prices for Americans, and it's not entirely clear that Americans are going to be able to afford these higher prices because car prices are already near all-time highs. And so tariffs, making them even more expensive, could be significant. The problem here, of course, is that for years, North America has treated this auto market like it's one country, right? This is not looked at as three different countries because of the free trade agreements. And so cars have parts that are made in Mexico, they're made in Canada before a vehicle ever arrives to a dealership. So the devil here is going to be in the details, Phil, and we're going to have to wait and see whether or not these tariffs actually kick in next week.
Yeah, both the timing of implementation, but to your point, Matt, the details here, I've been told there's a carve out for auto parts, but it wasn't entirely how that actually works, how that looks, absolutely critical for consumers, as well as the market. Matt, Eden, great reporting as always, my friend. Thanks so much. We're here to discuss Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha and Republican strategist Matt Gorman. Chuck, let's start with you. I want to play something President Trump said today about why he's moving forward with these tariffs. Take a listen.
Car companies and every other form of company, they're pouring back into our country at levels never seen before. They're all coming in so they don't have to pay tariffs. It's very simple, because if you build your product in the USA, there is no tariff.
Chuck, look, economists don't necessarily agree with how the president frames his arguments about tariffs. However, this idea of, look, reshore your operations, reshore your manufacturing here, you don't have anything to worry about. Why doesn't that work?
Well, it works if the jobs actually came back. I'm one of the few folks on TV that 20 years ago, my factory job in East Texas, where we made tires for cars, was offshore to China. Those jobs are not coming back. He tells everybody that he's going to bring all these jobs back because it's great messaging, and all Americans, even this Democratic American, love that. But what he's not saying is the point you made earlier with Matt is the devil's in the detail. I hate to tell all American consumers right now, that Chevrolet, that Chrysler that you're driving right now, 80% of all the parts for that thing are made in Mexico and Canada. If those, in fact, could be reshored over here and they could make the price of cars cheaper, I'd be all in. Price is just going to go up with this tariff.
You know, Matt, to that point, you've had the administration officials making very clear, the president on down, there's going to be some disruption. What he's trying to do, what his team is trying to do, is a complete realignment of the global trade system. Look, it's not an overstatement to say that. But the capacity and the patience with those disruptions, I think, is the very real political question right now. You have an economic telling CNN, quote, the cost of producing vehicles built in U.S. plants will rise by between $3,500 to $12,000. When you campaign on lowering prices, Matt, what is the level of willingness from his supporters, from voters, from Americans to deal with price increases?
I think Republicans need to take a page and learn a lesson from what Democrats failed to do with inflation, right? I think what Democrats did last time, they were trying to say the next week, and the next week, and the next week, transitory corporation, every excuse, right? You need to be able to tell a story on this. And I think what you're trying to see is the outlines of one. And I think part of it involves the fact that you need to be able to say we need cash to finance the debt. When you have a previous president put the country on credit card for 4 years, and a lot of spending with very high interest rates, and you need to be able to have cash and capital to pay that down and refinance that. So I would expect that to be woven into the messaging from the White House as well, too. And that story, I think, can help alleviate some of the traps that Democrats fell into
It just became with inflation, it was excuse after excuse.
Yeah, it's an important point. There is actually a fulsome economic plan from this administration. When we talk about tariffs, that's largely because of the guy who's running the administration. There's a lot of moving parts today. I really appreciate both of you guys coming on. Thanks so much. Well, new details just in after chilling video into CNN today. A grad student at Tufts University north of Boston taken into custody by immigration authorities. The arrest in a residential street captured on a neighborhood surveillance camera. What the Department of Homeland Security just said about the arrest. That's next.
Just girls with dogs.
And you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination. It's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
Ever feel like a spectator in your own life with chronic migraine? 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. In a survey, 91% of users wish they'd started sooner. So why wait? Talk to your doctor.
Botox effects may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as trouble swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Those with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions like rash, breathing problems, dizziness, neck and injection site pain, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history. Muscle or nerve conditions like ALS, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medicines like botulinum toxins, which may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Chronic migraine may still keep you from being there. Ask your doctor about Botox today. Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Yoo-hoo! No. That is against the HOA bylaws.
Bylaws, schmylaws. We're showing where consumers sell where it gets great coverage.
You're making everything orange.
I know, right? We use the same towers as Big Wireless, so you get the same coverage. Difference is, our plans start with just $20.
No, that can't be true.
But it is.
Wow. I hope you're using primer.
Do we use primer? For unlimited talk and text and reliable coverage starting at just $20. Call or visit Consumer Cell.
For plant-based, healthy blood pressure support, there's one brand that stands above the rest. It's Super Beats by Human. Find out how to get a free month, plus a free month of memory and focus juice with your first order, only at freesuperbeats.com.
It's Julia's birthday, so celebrate her. Celebrate her love of snacks or her elegant style. Celebrate the home she gave Alfie. Gifts that say I get you. Etsy.
Yet another toothpaste that does not whiten.
Girl, this one works. Basic toothpaste stops at the top. Crest goes deeper to dissolve bonds that hold stains in teeth. For whiter teeth in one day.
Taxes was feeling so stuck.
Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert. Doing everything while you do your thing. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
Childhood cancer it's hard, but St. Jude has gotten us through it. St. Jude is hope for every child diagnosed with cancer because the research is being shared all over the world.
Are you hungry?
I'm hungry.
Perfect.
I'm so excited!
This is cuisine at a different level.
Oh yeah. Food makes me so happy.
Eva Longoria, Searching for Spain. Premieres April 27th on CNN.
Hair that's a 10 in 10 minutes. Treat your hair how it deserves to be treated. Our new moisture boosting hair mask with hydrating keratin and natural extracts for good hair every day.
It's in our very nature to seek the excitement of the unexpected, an endless yearning to experience what lies beyond the everyday.
It's time to win.
Yamamont Resort and Casino in San Manuel is giving away a Richard Mille watch plus $15,000 cash in April. With 3 ways to secure a finalist spot, you could be the lucky winner of this luxury Swiss timepiece on April 9th. Details at yamamont.com. Must be 21 to enter. Please gamble responsibly.
Feeling claret and clear is like
Is she letting her imagination run wild even though she has allergies?
I'm Natasha Bertrand at the Pentagon, and this is CNN.
In the Law and Justice League, striking the video of a student's arrest. The student is a Tufts University graduate student taken into custody by plainclothes federal agents near her home outside Boston. You see it on your screen right now. The woman is a Turkish national in the U.S. on a legal F-1 visa. We just learned she's being held now in a facility in Louisiana. CNN's Gloria Pazmino joins me now. Gloria, tell us about what happened here.
Well, Phil, what you are seeing there is video of Rumeza Oster. She is a Tufts University student, as you said, and we have obtained this video captured by a neighbor's door camera. And what you see in the video is officers waiting for her on this street, and when she approaches this part of the sidewalk, they jump out of their cars, they approach her, they surround her. You can see that they take her phone away from her, they put her in handcuffs, they remove her backpack, and they begin to lead her away. They put her inside an SUV, and they drive away. In the video, you can hear for a brief moment as police, as the officers, I should say, identify themselves as police. We don't get an indication of why they are arresting her or where they're taking her. Her lawyer, who I've been speaking to in the last several hours, told me that she has finally confirmed that Oster was transferred to a facility in Louisiana from Massachusetts, where this took place. What we do not know yet is why she is being detained. But this is yet another international student who appears to be targeted for immigration enforcement by the Trump administration. We have reached out to the Department of Homeland Security, who confirmed the arrest and told us in part, quote, DHS and ICE investigations found Oster engaged in activities in support of Hamas, a foreign terrorist organization that relishes the killing of Americans. A visa is a privilege, not a right. Glorifying and supporting terrorists who kill Americans is ground for visa issuance to be terminated. Phil, the question here is what they are talking about when they refer to activities in support of Hamas. And I've asked officials that exact question. If that's the reason why this person is being detained, what does that look like? They are not answering that question. Presumably, they're going to have to do so in court. For now, this video is sending a chilling effect throughout the community, not just there in Boston, but across the international student community, who continues to apparently be targeted for immigration enforcement by the Trump administration. Phil?
Gloria Pazmino, important reporting. Thanks so much. Well, up ahead, President Trump's new comments just moments ago on the group chat saga, and had one of his national security advisors